How to notice God's action in everyday life. God's presence is constant, but we often don't notice it because we are consumed by daily matters, responsibilities, and worries. The Bible reminds us that God acts not only in spectacular ways but also in the smallest things that surround us. To see His action, we need to open the eyes of faith and learn to notice God's traces in everyday life. The Apostle Paul wrote, "For in Him we live and move and have our being." Acts chapter 17 verse 28. God's presence is not something distant. He sustains our life and guides us every day. The psalmist says, "The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and His ears are attentive to their cry." Psalm chapter 34 verse 16. God not only sees us, but He also listens and responds to our prayers, often in ways we do not immediately understand. Psychology indicates that consciously focusing on positive aspects of life and gratitude helps us perceive more goodness around us. In the context of faith, this means that the more we focus on God, the easier it is to notice His presence. How to notice God's action in everyday life. First, start the day with prayer and ask God to open your heart to His presence. Jesus said, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find." Matthew chapter 7 verse 7. When we consciously ask God for guidance, we begin to notice His signs in our lives. Second, pay attention to small blessings. In the Thessalonians, Paul wrote, "Give thanks in all circumstances." 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 18. Every smile, kind word, the beauty of nature, or unexpected help can be God's reminder that He cares about us. Third, see God's presence in other people. Jesus said, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Matthew chapter 25 verse 40. God often acts through the people who surround us, through their words, gestures, and presence in our lives. Fourth, learn to view difficulties as opportunities for growth. In the Romans, Paul wrote, "In all things God works for the good of those who love Him." Romans chapter 8 verse 28. Even in tough times, God is at work, though we do not always see it immediately. Sometimes only in hindsight do we realize that through experiences, He led us to something greater. Fifth, practice gratitude as a way to notice God's presence. In the Psalms, we read, "Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever." Psalm chapter 118 verse 1. Daily thanking God for even the smallest things opens our hearts to His action. Sixth, read and reflect on God's Word. Jesus said, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." Matthew chapter 24 verse 35. The Holy Scriptures teach us how to recognize God's action and how to live according to His will. God's action in everyday life is real and constant, but it requires awareness, openness, and readiness from us to notice His signs. As the psalmist says, "Look to the Lord and His strength. Seek His face always." Psalm chapter 105 verse 4. When we learn to notice His presence in every moment of our lives, our hearts will be filled with peace, joy, and certainty that we are never alone. Thank you for the time we've shared. May God bless you, your friend.